Hey, everybody, we're live. And
Woohoo.
yeah, I know. Hey, Bill and I, Bill and I have known each other since 1975,
Maybe even four.
maybe four. Let's try for four. 1974. Yeah, 1974. And the over this time, we've experienced a lot of things Cal, but never quite in this way. Because I went to Texas, Arlington, because I was in search of urban planning, which I did find, but they didn't have urban planning at Cal as an undergrad, and I was kind of chomping at the bit to stretch my wings. My friend here, on the other hand, went to Cal, took his voice with him. You sang, and you were also at this glorious event that I heard on the radio. Now, the irony of all this, folks, is I was on the alumni board for 7 years later, so you would think at least I was there, right? How about that, Bill? But let's enjoy this the play right here. This great thing of American history.
Harmon will probably try to squib it, and he does. Ball comes loose, and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rogers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone.
Oh!
The Bears have won. The Bears have won. Oh, my God. The most amazing, sensational, traumatic, heartrending.
Every time I see that, it just gives me chills. I have another version of, but Bill, do you remember where you were in the stadium when that happened?
I do remember where I was. So here's a funny background. I think I went to maybe 2 football games that whole year. I did not go to every game by any means, but if I was going to choose one game for my entire college career, that would be the one. So just by sheer luck or whatever, I was there. I was singing. I was a member of the men's octet at UC Berkeley. So the 8 of us went up to the game. Well, we were singing before the game and all the parties, and then we went up to the game and we were, walking around the stands singing our Cal songs and just cheering people on. And so the game started, and we were just kind of walking around in standing room. And it was a good game, as I recall, a lot of back and forth. And then at some point, it was clear, okay, Stanford's got this wrapped up and they're going to win. And we were saying, oh, well, too bad. But it was a good game, nice day. And I happened to be standing at that point behind the Stanford rooting section. So, we all thought, okay, there are just a couple seconds left. They're going to do this this kickoff, and
That'll be that.
Infinitesimal chance that anything ever happens. But you always hope, oh, maybe something will happen. And so we're all watching intently, and amazingly, something did happen. Like the ball kept moving up the field, and we saw all these guys getting tackled. But then, wait, the ball was over there, and they kept lateraling. The Cal team kept lateraling the ball and keeping it in play. And the field was becoming a mess because a bunch of players were running on the field because they thought the game was over and they'd won. The Stanford band had assumed, okay, it's over, we won, and they ran onto the field, into the end zone, and onto the field, actually, onto the playing field. But the ball was still in play, and it kept going, and all our jaws were dropping, and we were like, wow, no, this is amazing. No, it's not possible. And the guy actually looked like he scored, and unfortunately he slammed into one of the band members at the time, but he scored. The crowd started cheering and going crazy. And at that point, I remember hearing the Stanford fans saying, well, that was amusing, but of course it doesn't count, right? Because, the referees will call some, that it wasn't legal or something. And meanwhile, the Cal fans are just cheering like, yeah, that's it, we won. And the referees went into this pretty tense huddle, I guess, and they came out of their huddle, and the head ref, said, "Yeah, it's good." And then the crowd really went crazy and started cheering for just minutes and minutes and minutes. Stanford fans were not very happy, I have to say. But everybody else was just wandering around and saying, "Can you believe that? Wow, that was amazing. That's like a historic play." And now I can say 40 years later, yeah, they were right. That really was kind of historic play.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, and it took about one day for all of these T-shirts to appear for sale that said, the play, and had a little diagram of what happened. And everybody at Berkeley had to have one of those T-shirts.
I think, for me, there's so much that goes through my head. I think among them, watching this again and again and again, and then going back like here is, I'll explain what I was doing. I have now, Bill, 64 big game videos because I've been to, I think everyone starting in, 1980, 87, when I started grad school. But I don't have videos going back that far because YouTube wasn't invented until 2005. So I have 2000, I believe, starting 2008, 9, I started going up that way, But every time I see this one play, the play itself, I think of Gary Trammell. I think of the trombone player who I've actually come to know. I invited him to come on with us because he got clobbered.
Mm-hmm.
And he's earned a little side job, and the guy makes good money. He's a venture capitalist, just getting hit all the time. But for me, it's like we are now what? We're both 60.
Yes, we are.
And actually, Bill said it just like Leonard Nimoy and Mr. Spock would say. And yet, it's like the play happened yesterday. It's just, and players of other teams try to emulate it, and no one succeeds. What does that say for Cal? What does that say for what we? I mean,
very rare moment.
Yeah, but it's also this rallying cry for Cal itself. I want to share some videos of people that you might know. Some of you may not know, but nonetheless, this is going to be, if this cooperates, and I think it's going to, big game. We've had not just the play, but we had, let's see here. What I'm doing, folks, is I'm scrolling down because I'm trying to get this to behave properly, and it won't. Wait a minute. Yes, it did. It's the operator that didn't behave properly, talking about me. This one is special to me because we beat Stanford and stormed the field at Stanford. And so what you're about to see this time right here, and I think it's just out of deference to the man and how cool he was. This is Chancellor Berdahl. And we both happened to run into each other at Stanford on the field after we beat Stanford when Andrew Luck was the quarterback. And so this one, let's share screen here. Come on. There it is. There it is. This is the Chancellor right here. Okay. And pure enjoyment of what happened here. Cal 34, Stanford 20.
I thought it was a really terrific game. Both teams played well. Toby Gerhardt.
How's your heart?
Toby Gerhardt is a great player, but so is Shane Vereen, and Riley really came through for us today. And the defense stepped up after the first quarter. I'm really proud of our team.
Would you say it's the best win in your history here? I know it's a hard win, but it's like I'll say it's one of mine.
Okay, it's a great win. After we beat Washington next week.
There you go.
Right.
That's right.
And then we go to a major bowl and we win that. This is going to end up being a great season.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
You got
I'm a 1987 grad, right? I'd say this is definitely the best win of my illustrious career. Just because how many times do you have to knock Stanford out of a Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I forgot about it.
Not
We did
one
that
year.
here. That's the thing, you know
Never.
what?
And sorry.
I just realized something, Bill. We also knocked them out of the Rose Bowl in '82. We did it then. Yeah, we did it then too. And so the big game at least has some meaning in that way. But Bill, you got us all beat because the game of the centuries you were at. The rest of us are like schlemiels.
Well, and just by sheer luck, really. Hey, you mentioned the trombone player, and that reminds me. A couple of years ago, I was talking to a guy who went to Stanford, and I mentioned, somehow we talked about the play and the big game in '82, and I said, yeah, I always felt bad for that trombone player who just got completely flattened by the football player, and he said, oh, he and the football player are good friends. Yeah, they get together all the time, like every year and reminisce and have a beer or whatever. And I said, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I actually have Gary here in one of my videos because I met him and I wound up interviewing him at Henry's. And if I play my cards right here, Cal, Gary, Zennie 62. There it is. Let's see if I can get that's the wrong Zennie. It said Calgary. All right. I thought I did that. Let's try that again, folks. Cal, Gary, Zennie 62. Boom. And it says Calgary. Yeah, search and search for Calgary. And then it won't take me to try this here. That's funny. Let me try this again.
home, folks.
Yeah, Zennie 62 there. Okay. And yeah, here it is. I found it. This is right here, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Gary. There he is.
Wow.
And this was done with me and my other not as long time, but still long time friend Mike Silver. This was done at Henry's actually, 28 years later to the time from the play. And here it is, right? Make sure I got this lined up. Yep.
Hi, everyone. 2012 will mark the 40th anniversary of the play. The play is the famous multiple lateral kickoff return done by the California Golden Bears against the Stanford Cardinal in 1982. Cal was down 19-20 against the Cardinal with just 4 seconds left. This is what happened.
Harmon will probably try to swim it, and he does. Ball comes loose, and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rodgers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rodgers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone.
Here, Kevin Moore knocks the crap out of unsuspecting Stanford band member Gary Terrell.
Have won! The Bears have won! Oh, my God! That's amazing! Sensational! Dramatic! Heart-rending! Exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football!
Mine, just before he hit Terrell, is probably the most famous picture in college football sports. I had the pleasure of meeting Gary Terrell thanks to my friend Mike Silver of Yahoo Sports last year after a shellacking of a big game.
Introduce this guy.
This is my friend Gary. All I can say is I hate what happened to us today. I am happy for him, and he's great whether he wins or loses.
Now, where does he
I'm
stand?
trying to model.
Where does he stand in Cal fan lore?
He's part of one of the greatest things that's ever happened, and he's a great sport about it because he was run over by Kevin Moe in the end zone after the play, and all he's done is just keep playing.
Gary, first of all, when is this big game ranked and all the big games you've been involved in?
It probably comes right after the 1990 game. This is probably the best Stanford team that I've seen in my lifetime, and shows lots of promise for what might happen in December or January.
How did we not recover that kick in 1990, the onside kick? Everyone talks about the personal foul and the ref of the passer. If you can't recover an onside kick, you don't deserve to win.
And when I watched it from my point of view, I thought the guy who recovered it from Stanford came in from out of bounds.
You know what? Troy Carter's name is down. Let's call it even.
Hey, so what was one year ahead in 82 when you were standing there, you got mowed over? Did you have any idea what was happening? I was looking forward to going to the Hall of Fame Bowl in Birmingham on Christmas Day, but when I saw Kevin right before he hit me, I thought he was just getting the heck out of there because the game was over and it was him on the field. Till the cannon went off, I thought Stanford had won the game.
You know Michael Donner? A friend of mine. Yeah, he's a friend of mine too. The offer still stands. What? Why do you think the play indoors?
Before 9/11, I could pull that.
Well, I think it's sort of exemplifies how college has athletics. All the seniors, are really their last game, so just go for it till the end, and feed off the enthusiasm in the stadium, which was very prevalent that afternoon.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And I have to say, go Bears.
I know you do.
Go great. Cool. Hey,
You're the tree.
got it.
With 2012 being the 40th anniversary of the play, and we've got one more year to get there, maybe Cal can exact revenge for the shellacking we took last year, 2 years in a row. We've got this year, 2011, and then next year, 2012.
I'm gonna stop right there. You know why? Because I must have been out of my head. I said 40th anniversary.
Your math is a little off there, yeah.
Like by 10 years. But not only that, if you take a look at this, Bill, it says 28 years later. So my math in my head,
Yeah.
I wasn't quite there, which happens sometimes, but but Gary and then Michael Daughter, has been on the show. We talked about it. Michael played fullback for the Stanford Cardinal, and then he went on, of course, to play with the Raiders. We actually met up at the NFL. My second NFL draft, first with the YouTube channel. Michael and I went to dinner that evening. So we've had a lot of history behind this, just primarily because of Cal and the play and people I know that knew of somebody else like Mike knows Gary, and then Gary and I have become friends. And it's bound to a lot of people. And now this is the 40th anniversary of it. And it's important to remember it because, among other things, it says a lot that, we always talk about these markers in life, right? These things that happen that few other people experience, but you were there. You remember exactly what happened, the reaction. People were surprised, they were shocked. And it just endures. It's going to, that's wild. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, and if you had asked me at the time, hey, 40 years from now, are you going to remember this? And is this going to be a big thing, a big memory for everyone? I would have said, oh no, it's just kind of a day that turned out differently than people expected, but I didn't think people would remember it as long as they did. And it was like as legendary as it is. So history proved me wrong.
and then things like Gary said, to this day, he still thinks Stanford won. And he said that. And I remember the news where they had actually changed the Stanford Daily.
Right. Right. They played a really clever prank with a fake newspaper that said, oh, we appealed the decision and basically Stanford won after all or something.
Which, hey, you know what? It just occurs to me right now. Was that the first example of fake news in our society?
Probably not. I think they printed up a Daily Cal, something
Yeah,
like that. It
yeah.
was, believable enough, and it wasn't April Fool's joke. It was like, but it was really well done. I remember that.
Oh, and I have to correct myself. It wasn't the first example of fake news in our society that it was viral. The War of the Worlds was, right? With
oh, right, yes, right.
Yeah. That
the
was
radio show, and people said, I don't know.
Yeah, and
Yep.
who were watching, or the War of the Worlds was a famous 1933 radio broadcast by Orson Welles, if memory serves, and people actually thought we were, under attack by aliens. It's amazing how far we've come, huh?
Or
not.
No.
Are we? But are we actually better off with all this technology and everything?
No, I think it makes things faster sometimes, but no, I think people are still people, and we're the same as we were 1,000 years ago. That's my take.
Yeah, because like Bill and I, we all met over Star Trek at Bret Hart, and with Lars, and rest in peace. And even then, it's like it's amazing how Star Trek has dominated our thinking even to this day. And yet, I don't think we ever saw it. Did you see it coming?
What? That it dominated our thinking, or that?
Yeah.
I suppose just because I was such a big fan at the time, it's like permanently warped my brain. I don't know, but
no fun
similar to what I was saying about the play. If you had asked me in 1974, oh, do you think Star Trek will be a big thing in the future? I would have said, well, no, they canceled the show and that's it. It's done. Yeah. And boy, I was wrong about that completely, because here we are 40 years. Anyway.
Yeah, 60 years of Star Trek.
Well, yeah. And since it stopped, maybe 55 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, still going, still new series. And so.
You still want to watch it?
This is way different than Big Game Memories, but it's kind of related in some way.
It's only related in one way. We know it's us. Being selfish. Because how often is the first time I've had Bill on, so I'm taking advantage of the opportunity and the fun, and everything else. Are you still watching football or Star Trek or anything? Or I know you're a big biker too, but
football and Star Trek, sometimes both of them sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was. Tomorrow is the day before they have the bonfire. I think the bonfire rally is generally tonight for the big game. And although I don't know how many of the festivities are being redone again, because we're still in the pandemic. I don't know. Are we post-pandemic or pandemic, or where are we?
I think, we're emerging from it, but people are still being careful.
Yeah. So I don't know how many events. I know that we used to have the big game luncheon. I went to that every year. They stopped doing that 4 years ago, unfortunately, because the Stanford coaches didn't like making the drive. First with Jim Harbaugh, he balked about it, and then Dave Shaw out after a couple of years outright basically said, "I'm not doing this anymore." Which I thought was too bad, because it's a great way to see people you hadn't seen in some years, and just take a Tuesday and just blow off some steam. But oh well, it's no longer. Hey, did your kids ever think of going to Cal because of the play or anything, or they were like, I don't want to be involved in that? Or
the play was not a factor in their college applications, I have to say.
Probably for better. Well, Well, Bill, hey, stick around in the background. I know you got to get ready for work tomorrow and everything. But one thing, there is one other thing I want to ask you about, and that's Artemis, which lifted off about a day ago plus.
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to see it? What did you think?
Well, I watched the rerun because it was late at night. Yeah, as a nerdy kid who used to watch the Apollo launches, that was kind of exciting. So I don't know.
Yeah,
You can debate, whether it's worth doing or all of that, but it was exciting to see. Wow, this is NASA, and they're actually launching this thing.
Yeah,
oh, cool.
It felt like we're back. It felt like after how many years of Challenger accident, Columbus, even this launch was scrubbed twice before. And I thought, oh no, we really don't have it back. And then finally, 8.8 million pounds of thrust later. My God. And we're just 4 hours drive from here. So, if I had my wits about me, I could have gotten down there. But, it is what it is, as they say. I'm just
the next one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just excited that we're on that path. And I think if you made it to a Cal, when's the last Cal football game you went to? It's been how long?
Probably 20 years.
Yeah.
The last one I went to was with my dad. He was still alive, and
rest in peace.
He was getting old, but I knew that in his youth he used to love going to the games, so I took him to a game, and it was cool.
Yeah,
I was like, can you see what's going on down there? And he was like, oh yeah, I can see. And I was like, I'm not sure I believe you, but I'll take it.
And I remember him just like he's here today. So wow, that's something else. Yeah, that's what binds people though. It's events like that, the big game, Cal, and in fact, alum to alum, what did going to Cal mean to you?
I think at the time it was just like a nearby university, and a bunch of people I knew from high school were going there, so I didn't really look any further. And it wasn't, I think, until I was there for a while that I realized, oh, this just isn't a nearby university. It's like a really good public university, maybe the best. So that kind of dawned on me at some point, but like not my first year necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy I was able to go.
Yeah, and I went for grad school, and I regret not going as an undergrad, but you do what you think you might be best for you, even though I was probably too young to realize it at the time. But I did.
All good.
Yeah, and I came back for grad school, and I had the best 2 academic years of my life. And met friends from there that then connected with yourself and others who were there before, and people I haven't seen in a long time. Like I think Marta Goldstein went to Cal, among others. I haven't seen that. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. I mean, and there are other people that we've seen more recently, right? Who have. And but for me, I'll tell you what it meant, to be 1,000% honest. Is I finally figured and this is something that I have my own world of friends, that is defined by who I am as a person. And being at Cal then, because my first concern was, hey, was I brought in because I'm Black? And I didn't want to be an affirmative action hire. I mean, nothing against that program. I'm not going off on a conservative or liberal rant. I'm just saying that was a consideration. And the late Kay Bach, who is my graduate admissions secretary, said, no, you were brought here because people put you number 1 on the wait list because they were impressed with your application. And that was enough for me. And Cal was the greatest intellectual smorgasbord a person could have, in any level. but at grad school, I remember I was coming out of Moffitt on my second day of classes and getting ready because my class was nearby. And I was walking and I saw W.A. Shack. He was the dean of the grad school. And it meant a lot to me to see an African-American man, the head of the grad school. I just ran into him. And I stopped and introduced myself and told him, I was really honored to meet him and everything, and how honored I was to be at the grad school. And he said, to be honest with you, we only have undergraduates because the state says we have to have them. He says it's really all about folks like you. And I said, I appreciate that. Sorry to tell you that, Bill. But that was heady. And then also, when I think of Cal, I think of Robert Oppenheimer, and I think of you because you studied physics, and I think of Cal being is it accurate to say that we were the birthplace of the atomic bomb?
No.
Correct that. Let's correct that.
Yeah, well, it's there were a number of locations where the ideas were formed and then developed, I would say. A bunch of books about that.
That's something that I'm going to come back to later because there's a movie coming out about that. So
I
you
know about that movie. Yeah,
What do you think about it? Are you excited or are you concerned?
No, I mean, I know it's going to be a movie, but I like Christopher Nolan's what he's done with a bunch of movies. So I think he'll do a good job with it.
Yeah. That's right.
Hey, Zennie, I've got to.
I'm going to do that. Yeah, he's got to go. So I'm going to stop here. But Bill, stick around in the background, and everybody, thank you for tuning in, and subscribe to Zennie 62 and go Bears. That ends this broadcast. Bill, you don't have to push a button. I got you.
All right.
And so